I'll do my best. Rishut, Rabbi Fink, Rabbi Axelrod, Rabbi Luckstein, Rabbi Steinmetz. I would first like to start by thanking two special people who have taken care of my father like their own father. Norman Angelus, who has repeatedly gone above and beyond the call of duty, searching for ways to improve my father's quality of life. And Jess Rule Dial, who has shown unparalleled compassion. They are both truly angels. My father was known to most people as Oscar Heller, but in his pre-New Shell years, he was more often called Chaim Shia Heller. And to his close family, he was lovingly called Choo-Choo, or Uncle Choo-Choo, his Hungarian nickname. When we were kids growing up, my siblings and I thought it was so funny that our father had a nickname, Choo-Choo. My father was born in Nyíregyháza, Hungary, and was the fourth of 5 children. He had wonderful memories of his life for the first 13 years of his life. And then in 1944, the Nazis marched into his town and changed his world forever. My father believed he was a lucky man. He was convinced that Hashem sent angels to protect him many times in his life, helping him survive the Shoah against all odds, overcome serious medical issues, and later to help him acclimate to his new life in New Rochelle and then in Muncie. My father's life was defined by the Shoah. He didn't talk much about it when we were growing up, but then opened up and shared his stories later in life. He believed that Hashem wanted him to survive for a reason, to raise a family and continue his parents' legacy. He had incredible willpower and resourcefulness, which helped him survive. Most of you heard the story of his miraculous escape from Auschwitz, when a Nazi officer held a gun to his head and ordered him not to move. Just as he thought his life was over, there was a loud commotion, and the officer got distracted, giving my father a split-second chance to escape. He was then able to sneak onto a line of prisoners boarding a train to Dachau, which was a work camp where no children were allowed. Miraculously, he got on the train and arrived at Dachau, only to come face to face with a Nazi officer who stopped him and demanded he take off his prisoner jacket. Once again, my father thought his death was imminent, but Hashem had other plans. The officer disappeared with his jacket and then returned a few minutes later and gave it back to him. When my father put his hands in the pockets of his jacket, it was filled with foods and meats, and he didn't understand why that happened. My father lived up to his other nickname, Red Fox, given to him by Dr. Mengele, as many of you know. My father arrived in America in 1947 at age 17 with just the clothes on his back. He didn't know a word of English, and his European ways and customs made it hard for him to fit in. But he was determined to get an education and create a new life for himself. He went to night school to learn English while attending Yeshiva Torah Vodas high school during the day. He ended up speaking English better than any of his children, and he also wrote beautifully in English. He then attended City College, where he got a degree in electrical engineering, his passion. He loved engineering, and later earned patents on some of his design work on parts that were used in the newly designed 747 airplane and one of the rockets that entered space. While getting an education, he had to work several jobs to support himself. One job he had was working as a waiter in a hotel in the Catskills. He told us that he only got the job because someone else didn't show up, and that he was really a terrible waiter, and he was scared he would get fired. Once again, he felt that Hashem was protecting him, and the guests that he served at the table were very kind to him, and they secretly helped him serve and clear the tables. But as much as he loved his work, without a doubt, Yiddishkeit, Torah scholarship, and learning were his top priorities. He was a deeply religious man, as most of you know, and he never wavered in his belief of Hashem. The motto Torah Umada orchestrated his life. He got his smicha from Yeshiva Tarvadas, and he knew a huge amount of Gemara by heart. As many of you can attest, he always greeted people with the Devar Torah. Just yesterday, Rabbi Fink came to visit my father in the hospital and proceeded to tell him a wonderful Devar Torah. At the end, he said, "Mr. Heller, do you know where I heard this Devar Torah? From you, Mr. Heller. You told it to me many years ago, and I never forgot it." When my parents moved to New Rochelle just 8 years ago, my father immediately became part of the Daf Yomi group, and the men in the group became his closest friends. So many people looked out for him and took care of him. One day I saw him using a gadget to get into the shul, allowing him to bypass the security code, and I asked him, "Dad, where did you get that gadget?" He said, "Oh, my friend Myron Eagle gave it to me." I didn't even know such a gadget existed. I will forever be grateful to all of you who treated my father with such respect and kindness, always offering him rides to and from shul, which he always refused. I would go there in the morning, and he would come down to leave to shul, and he refused to get into my car. And he would walk along North Avenue in the cold, in the snow, and I would drive along, just watching him walk, and he wouldn't get in. This happened day after day. But thank you to Mark Sachs and Kenny Weiser, who always walked my father, or who insisted on walking him to and from shul. Jack Bruder, Dan Berman, for taking my calls at all hours, seeking medical advice, and to the countless other angels in New Rochelle. When my father met my mother on their first date, it was already love at first sight. My mother was drawn to his European accent and his mannerisms. My father was drawn to how American she was. It was a perfect match. They complemented each other in so many ways and gave us a wonderful, solid upbringing steeped in Yiddishkeit. 3 years ago, my parents went to the Fountain View in Muncie for Pesach and decided, when I came to pick them up, they said they're not leaving. They wanted to stay. My father loved the fact that he can go to shul 3 times a day and be able to attend Daf Yomi and Shiurim without ever having to leave the building. Those were the things that were important to him, and he felt safe there. He knew he would be slowing down, and he wanted to make sure he would still be able to go to shul 3 times a day without being a burden to anyone. My father was brilliant. He mastered so many subjects. I asked him about everything: halacha, calculus, current events, and he gave me all the answers I needed. I don't know how I will go on without him. For the past 10 years, I devoted myself to caring for my parents and making their lives as fulfilled and comfortable as possible. Many times I didn't attend smachot in the neighborhood or events in the community because I chose to stay with my parents, just to feed them another meal or just to spend time with them. It was so hard to leave them every time I was there. I don't know how I will leave you, Dad. Mom, remember that we're all here for you. We love you so much and admire the wonderful wife you were to Dad. Just yesterday, I had you on FaceTime with Dad, and I asked you to say something to him. And what did you say? And I quote, "Oscar, did you have supper?" That's what she cared about. She prepared his food, she ironed his clothes, and it's our family joke, ironed everything. Just served him with just happiness and just in fulfillment. You always took the best care of Dad, and he loved you for that. Just want to ask from the Chila if I didn't treat you with any respect that you deserved. He was so good to me for so many years and made my life so wonderful. I hope I was half as good to you.